If you use these water stones to sharpen your blades, you'll know that they need to be flat. Today I'll share 3 simple, straightforward ways to make them so. How's it? My name is Dylan and welcome to another edition of Ply Creations. Today we are talking whetstone or water stone maintenance, and more specifically on how to flatten your whetstones. Now, why do they need to be flat? As part of the sharpening process, to get a sharp edge, the backs of your chisels or your plane blades or your cutting tools need to be flat. And the flatter your abrasive surfaces that you use to flatten the backs, the more accurate that will be. Now, flatness isn't unique to water stones. Your scary sharp system needs to work off a flat surface. Diamond stones need to be flat as well. But the reason we're focusing on water stones is because they go out of flats, and part of the maintenance process is to keep them flat, and today I'll be showing you the 3 methods that I found works for that purpose. I'm doing this video as a follow-up on an article that I have on my website. I'll leave the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on the screen and go and have a look at that, where I contrast and compare the 3 most common systems that you'll find out there in the wild for sharpening your tools, and that's scary sharp, diamond stones and water stones. Now, my progression was scary sharp, then water stones, and then I finally moved up to diamond stones. And whenever I train students in my workshop, I'll always suggest that they look at water stones if they can, diamond stones if they can afford it. But water stones or Japanese stones sit at a golden middle ground that make them very versatile for beginner sharpeners, beginners in hand sharpening especially, but you need to understand how to flatten them in the process as well. So we'll head over to the workbench and I'll show you my first method. Also, I'll show you how you can use the different methods as you progress through different systems in hand sharpening, finally ending up with diamond stones. So I'll head over to the bench and I'll see you there. So the first method we're going to have a look at to flatten your water stones is using the scary sharp system. If you don't know what the scary sharp system is, it's simply an abrasive like sandpaper or something like that stuck to a flat surface. In my case, I'm using a plate of glass. I've already got my abrasive stuck to the glass using double-sided tape. The grit I'm using is 100 grit. Try not to go much coarser than that. That will leave striations or scratch marks on your water stone, which could affect the accuracy of your cutting edges when you start sharpening your blades. Now I'm set up to make a mess and to clean up after myself. That's probably my biggest gripe with with water stones, and that is that they are quite messy. So get ready to clean up after yourselves, or have a dedicated area where you work with your water stones. So set up to clean up after myself. My water stone has been soaking in water. I have a pencil close at hand, and for that is I'm going to make a grid over the surface of the stone, and that just tells me where I'm removing material. The reason I'm doing this is these stones are not cheap, and what I'd like to do is remove as little material as I possibly can, and having the grid on the stone will tell me where I'm moving material, and the moment the pencil marks are gone, I know I'm flat. Place the surface that you want to flatten onto your abrasive, and simply what I do is you'll see that I go in a figure of 8, and that allows me to flatten the stone evenly to the sides and front to back. Just the easiest way to do it. The pencil marks are gone and my stone is flat. It actually had a little bit of a hollow in the middle. and that's why I spent some extra time there. But that is our first method. And if you are upgrading from Scary Sharp to Waterstones, this is an ideal solution. So don't get rid of your Scary Sharp hardware. You can use it to flatten your stones quite effectively. Next, we'll go on to method number 2. So whereas the first method is ideal if you're moving up from Scary Sharp into using wet or Japanese Waterstones, the next option is probably ideal if you commit fully to Waterstones or skip the Scary Sharp step altogether and move into Japanese stones immediately. And that is a dedicated flattening stone manufactured by the same guys who make the Waterstones. Really simple process. I'm keeping Scary Sharp here so that the stone doesn't slip around while I'm working on it. Get it out of the water. Draw my grid. And simply bring the flattening stone over . Trying to keep even pressure along the length of the stone. And you can actually see the pencil marks disappear. That works really well and is ideal if, as I mentioned, you skip Scary Sharp and get into Waterstones or Japanese stones from the get-go, or want to commit to the system fully. And on to the final method I'd like to share with you today, and that is using my coarsest diamond stone. In this case, it is my DMT coarse stone. Method is really simple. Again, we bring out the Waterstone, we draw our grid, and then use the diamond stone to flatten. Avoid keeping your diamond stones close to water, in water. Dry them off as soon as you can. Water and diamond stones cause rust. What I use to remove the swarf while I use my diamond stones is a window wash liquid that I buy in bulk, and I use a spray bottle. That doesn't contain water, so therefore I don't struggle with rust. Avoid oil. You don't want oil from your diamond stone to get into your Waterstone. That is something you'd like to avoid. Now, as you progress in the different sharpening systems, let's say from Scary Sharp to Waterstones, and if you want to continue from Waterstones into diamond stones, this is an ideal way to get into diamond stones. When you start using diamond stones, you need 3 stones. You need coarse, you need medium, and you need fine. And if you have the coarse stone that you are using to flatten your whetstones, you're already 1/3 down the road into getting into diamonds. So that is an ideal way to progress. That brings us to the end of the 3 methods I'd like to share with you today. And as you can see, I have a bit of a mess. So I'll clean up and I'll see you for my final thoughts. So with my Waterstone flat and my workshop cleaned up, which by the way entailed washing a towel and cleaning up the plastic container in which I soaked the stone before my wife gets home, I'd be quite comfortable to flatten any chisel back or plain blade on the stone and do that quite accurately. Waterstones hardly see any action in my workshop anymore, but I do use them when I train customers to hand sharpen their tools, and then they come out, and those 3 methods help me keep my stones or the Waterstone in good nick and ready for class. Also, we were able to cover on how you can go from Scary Sharp to Waterstones and upgrade into diamond stones without it being too painful, and I hope that helped you. Of course, none of those systems are wholly complete without a good strop at the end. And I have 2 videos on my channel that you may be interested in. The first is I show you how to use a strop, and the second is I show you how to make your own strop, and I include a few design aspects into the build that you may not readily or easily see somewhere else. But that brings us to the end of this edition of Ply Creations. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure your stones are flat, and until I see you next time, I hope you have a good one. Cheers.